This program and its contents are designed for information and educational purposes only. This program does not render medical advice or professional services and is not intended to be a substitute for professional care. The information provided here should not be used for the purposes of diagnosing or treating a medical or psychiatric condition. If you have or suspect you may have a health problem, consult your healthcare provider.
This program is brought to you by Movement Solutions and Soaring Wings Vineyard and Brewing. Hi, welcome to Positive Momentum TV. I'm Diane Silva, and today my guest is Zoraya Hernandez. She's a private pilot and a former anxious person. So basically, Zoraya and I met through a meetup and found out that she used to have anxiety and went ahead and got her private pilots, which is one of the things I tried to do. So she is basically has accomplished the things I want to do. So anybody else who has fear of flying, this would probably be a really good area to be able to pay attention to, and maybe we can learn from Zoraya. So Zoraya, would you tell us a little bit about your anxiety and how it impacted your life?
I remember that I always wanted to travel when I was younger, but I was always afraid of flying. Even like watching an airplane fly over me would like make me sweat, and I would start getting nervous, and I thought, oh, this is a real issue because I'm not even airborne, and I'm already feeling those heart palpitations and that fear, and the years went by, and I thought that that's the way I was going to be forever, and I just had to cope with it to the best that I could. And I didn't have any tools, or I wasn't using any tools specifically during that time to overcome it. I guess I wasn't really interested, or I really didn't think thoroughly about facing it during that moment in time. But then eventually I really felt within me this wave of needing to really find out if I could actually fly without any anxiety and really enjoy it, because I would always picture it as something really fun in my mind sometimes and then sometimes I thought, well, that doesn't seem fun if you're airborne and you have no control, and the way that it just evolved over time, the desire to actually move forward. And I remember one time I was going to go visit family in California, and I told a physician if there was something that they could prescribe, like an anxiety medicine or something to help me have a more pleasant experience. And they thought, well, we could give you prescribe something, and so they did. And I remember that I took the medicine, and it actually made me feel worse. And I thought, okay, this is not helping. And so then I thought, well, why do I have to take medicine? Why? I think, there is more to, more tools that are available that maybe I haven't discovered yet that could actually help me to enjoy this experience. So I didn't really go into investigating any other options at that moment. Time went by, and then one day I was actually just wandering around the Aviation Institute at the University of Nebraska, and I saw, it was actually in 2011 was when I actually discovered that UNO had an Aviation Institute. And I thought, oh, wow, what does this mean? What do they teach, or what is this about? So I went in, I took a flyer, and I looked into it, and it just suddenly, like within me, I thought, oh, maybe I can just learn how to fly. Maybe I can, actually be the pilot or, you know, have control of the aircraft. And I actually learned a lot by that, because in my mind I said, I can actually have control of the aircraft. And I think that's what made me think that I could actually overcome my fear. I wanted to have control, because that's what a lot of passengers, even not just me, but I've learned that there are many who are afraid of flying, and they the number one thing that kind of makes them increases their anxiety is they have no control over, you know, the machine.
Right, or the situation.
Exactly. So that evolved. I actually did my medical exam and got my airman.
Can you explain what the medical means? You know, most people who are viewing have no idea, because they haven't been introduced to aviation in that level.
So it is actually a physical exam done by a physician who is designated by the FAA, so that they can make sure that you are fit to fly. So, and I don't mean fit by being skinny, but fit as in, you know, your sight and your physical health.
Mental health as well.
Exactly. That is key.
Yes.
Also. And so I got my first class medical certificate, and then I enrolled at the UNO Aviation Institute. And I remember they explained to me the whole program. I enrolled in the professional flight program, and I remember this like in my mind, in the back of my head. I will never forget this. They said, well, and you know, by the end of you'll start your flying lessons, and then by the end of the first semester, you have to have accomplished your first solo. And I was like, what does that mean? And then they said, well, you have to be able to, you know, take off, depart from the runway by yourself without your instructor. And so I thought, oh, okay. I don't know why I thought it was easy, but it just seemed really doable at that time. So in my mind, I thought maybe they mean like a simulator, like a machine, you know, like a game. I'm gonna be in a game, and I'm gonna take off, and I'm all gonna be okay. No, it was not like that. I remember you do not start with a simulator, just so anyone gets that straight. I actually really did think that my flying lessons would begin in a simulator, and then once I felt like I was, you know, proficient, then I would actually get into an actual aircraft and learn to fly literally. And it wasn't like that. You actually do get in an aircraft right away. And it was actually at Millard Airport.
Okay.
And it was very, I was scared, because for someone who has anxiety in big aircraft, you know, like the 747s, imagine you go from like big, you're like, okay, I'm scared, I want to overcome this, and then you start flying in a single engine.
Yeah.
It's a different experience, but nevertheless, it was very well worth it. Yes, I was frightened. I am not going to deny that, but it was the beginning of my it was a stepping stone of me actually moving forward with, you know, taking care of my anxiety. And I think the one thing that has helped me the most to actually get through the entire process has been that I owned my story, and I was able to, you know, not judge myself, because
that's important.
It's very difficult to, you know, learning to fly is very different than, one thing is, it's the same thing as overcoming a fear of anything else. It's, you take care of it, and then sometimes you want to give up because it seems hard. It seems like you're not going to be able to really get there.
Yeah.
And the fact that I was able to always forgive myself for not being more at ease, because at the beginning I was not at ease. Now I am, but at first I was like always getting stomach aches, and I thought, I can do this, but it was not easy. It was.
If you wouldn't mind, let's go back to owning your story. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? I mean, I think that's very important, and I just want to, if we could explain what that meant. What did that look like? What did that feel like, owning your story?
Owning your story felt liberating, and it's where you actually don't deny the facts. So yes, I was afraid of flying, and I went and I got the idea of actually learning how to fly literally, because I felt like, you know, there's more to me than this. Mm-hmm. And then going from there, and helping others, because part of owning my story also entailed forgiving myself, like I mentioned earlier, not really like reprimanding myself for not being as
proficient or
no, like at ease, because had I been more at ease or not being so afraid of that, then I probably wouldn't have even ever yearned to actually learn how to fly. It was not part of my plan ever. The fact that it did was because maybe I got fed up with the fear, and I was like, you know what, enough. Let's just do something about it instead of crying about it.
Exactly. Where it's instead of keeping you a prisoner, it's like breaking those chains. You're finding the key and saying, okay. But you also mentioned being gentle, being kind. Well, maybe not mentioned it, but basically part of owning your story was being kind with yourself, being gentle with yourself, forgiving yourself for any missteps. Okay. So, you know, and accepting the fact that I have to deal with anxiety, you know, maybe it's sitting right here, maybe it's part of who I am, however you identify with it. But do you feel that that was a key, you know, being able to be that kind and gentle with yourself and accepting?
Yes.
And somebody had just recently told us that you cannot change something you don't accept. So you accepted the fact, and please forgive me, I'm not trying to, tell me if I'm correct or not, is you accepted the fact I'm dealing with anxiety or fear or whatever you want to label it, and you accepted the fact, okay, it's either I'm going to do something about it or it's going to hold me prisoner forever, and I'm tired of being a prisoner, so enough.
Yes.
And you took matters in your own hand. So may I ask why you went to UNO versus just going over to an airport and going for just your pilot?
That's actually a really good question, because that's something that I asked everyone. When I joined the Aviation Institute, I wasn't really familiar with how it worked. I have no background. No one in my family is an aviator, so I was learning everything about myself. So when I enrolled, I learned that it's separated, that you can actually learn how to fly just by joining a flight school at a flying an airport.
Right.
And not necessarily, you don't have to do it through the university or any university affiliated with flying or professional flight. And so I did ask a couple of the graduate students at the who were already in the program, and I asked the advisors, and I wanted to know what it is that they recommended, and they all gave me different feedbacks and different, they suggested differently. And I made my decision to actually go through UNO just because I didn't know anybody. So having other classmates, we could, relate to each other and talk about, our progress. Like now, if you fly ever, you could call me and I could tell you, oh, do this or do that, or I can help you, or I have these books. So maybe that's what that sounded like the most brilliant idea at that moment, to just go ahead and go through UNO, since I wasn't really familiar with the system, and I thought, we'll see how that works, and if eventually, if it doesn't, then I'll just go through the flying school without having to really stay at UNO. But I did stay at UNO because it was what I needed at that moment.
Right.
And it really did help, actually. It really did, to have other students, and because we're all, if there's anything about flying, is that when you start the semester all together, but we actually progress differently because we all learn how to fly differently.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like learning how to become an engineer, that you just go, and everyone is at the same stage always, as you progress. But no, we start together and then we all evolve differently, because learning how to fly literally is something different. Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's one thing I'd like everybody to understand is, first of all, do what feels right for you. Find what works. There are simulators around. UNO actually does have a simulator,
Yes,
from what I understand.
correct. Mm-hmm.
And there's also one here in town through Nebraska Flight Center that I've used, and actually we have some footage with me in the simulator. So that, for some, is a good start, and it depends what you're after. Not everybody wants to learn how to fly. What we're trying to do on Positive Momentum is teaching people how to be passengers.
Mm-hmm.
I want to learn how to fly still, but you talked about the FAA and the medical. I still need medication to fly, and the FAA doesn't like that. No. So I've got to wait. But so you're talking about doing things in different paces, and that's another way to be gentle with yourself. Know that you're not going to learn the same way everybody else does,
Mm-hmm.
and it's okay to be in a different place. You may accelerate at one place, but need extra skills in another, and it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's the message I want to send to everybody who's watching, and everybody who's not watching, friends, family, whatever, is it's okay to be okay with yourself. Give yourself permission to just be where you are, because that's where you need to be. Mm-hmm. As you said with UNO, that was the place you needed to be. That doesn't mean it was same thing for somebody else. Mm-hmm. So I apologize, I got off track. I do that a little bit. As you know, anybody who knows me, I kind of, so I fly all by myself. I fly my own plane, as they say. That's one way to look at it. Just fly your own plane. Worry about the other guy later. So with your progress, you said that you had to solo by the end of the first semester. So can you explain maybe your first experience with the up to solo? If you wouldn't mind, kind of go there up to solo, and then we'll take the solo from there.
Okay. Well, I started flying at Millard, mm-hmm. and honestly, I was not progressing. I wasn't, and part of it was because I was dealing with the anxiety. So everything that involved the learning, I just couldn't, I was afraid to take control.
Mm-hmm.
And the instructor felt it, or mm-hmm. maybe I felt like he did, because I wasn't moving forward. I would hear other students who began a little bit after me, and they were already soloing, and I was like, what? How can you solo? I haven't even touched the controls. So then through grace, I actually ended up moving to Council Bluffs Airport, mm-hmm. and it was because this is the one thing about progress, is that if you notice that even as a passenger, if you notice that the tool that you're using is not really helping you, or let's say that you have found a teacher or an instructor or a guide, whatever mm-hmm. it is that you're using, a book or whatever, if that is not working, give yourself permission to move on to something that will take you there. Because I wasn't learning when I was at Millard, because I was very, very afraid, and then the one who was teaching me was also very insecure about teaching. Mm-hmm. So I had to take it upon myself, which is very difficult, because when you're learning something or whatever it is, you don't really know who is more pro.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, I decided to take the risk, and I moved over to Council Bluffs. I found a different instructor, and from there on, it just went forward at full throttle.
Cool. I like the way you said that.
Yeah. So the instructor that I selected at Council Bluffs Airport was the one who taught me how to solo, and he was the one who taught me how to fly. And through him, I was able to get my first private pilot certificate. So that's one of the things that I also recommend passengers or anyone who is dealing with anxiety of any form. If you notice that what you're using is not working, then maybe there's a reason why it's not working. Don't be afraid to find or search or open yourself up to something else that could really lead you there.
Mm-hmm. And consider us giving you permission to go elsewhere. Pay attention to what you feel. Because that's one of the things I found out with anxiety, was my anxiety flared up, or the anxiety I dealt with, flared up when I wasn't paying attention to what I needed. So, oh my gosh, I'm worried about what's my instructor going to think if I quit him?
Correct.
So it's like, no. Just like a therapist or a doctor or anybody else, they're there to benefit you. I mean, they're benefiting themselves, but they're there to teach you. And they're failing if they don't let you go do something that you need to do. So it is okay. I'll give you permission, Zoraya, you'll give permission to just go do what you need to do. Take care of you. And real quick, on the fear thing, when you were talking about how you weren't learning because you were afraid, I just read something and it said that the amygdala will shut us down. It won't open up to learning things, to absorbing. It'll kind of block everything because it's when you're anxious. So check out the facts because, again, I'm not a professional, but when we're in an anxious mode, we're not going to learn. That's why people with test anxiety don't test well. People with, speech don't do speech as well. People learning to fly won't learn how to fly very well until they find somebody that can help them become comfortable and allow that amygdala to not respond. Oh, sorry, went a little off board there again. So we got about 5 minutes left. If we could, what advice would you give someone who is in an anxious situation, no matter what, whether it's flying or whatever? Because we know if we have a set of tools, we can use it for any anxious situation and just keep opening that toolbox and finding something that works. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give anyone who is dealing with a formidable foe anxiety or whatever that's imprisoning them? What would you say?
One of the things that I would recommend is pay attention to your body and honor it. If anxiety is what you're feeling, then be okay with it. Just be with it. Be present with it, mm-hmm. and then go from there. And I do have to say that if you're in the situation where it's really escalating, and I've been there, mm-hmm. you can just focus on what's around you and notice that you are safe. If you pay attention to, okay, this is where I am, or example, passenger, you're there, you're sitting, you're very afraid, just pay attention to your body. Okay, I'm afraid. Well, okay, I'm sitting here in the chair and I'm airborne, and what time is it? And what am I wearing? And what am I feeling? And why am I feeling this way? Like, have that conversation with yourself, and I think that eventually you actually kind of calm down because mm-hmm. you are bringing your whole being into the present.
Yes.
And that is everything.
Mm-hmm.
That it may not feel like it to you at that moment, but little by little you do actually reach that level where you're just like no longer, wanting to like hurt someone.
or jump out of a plane that's moving, 500 miles an hour going, okay. Yeah.
But above all, it is possible, and if you're not there yet, forgive yourself. It's okay, mm-hmm. It will come when it's time, when you're ready. In the meantime, if you're not there, it's perfectly fine. You are imperfect being. perfect being imperfect.
Yes, exactly.
So.
I love that, perfect being imperfect. And that I think that's part of what causes some of our angst is we're not heard, we're not felt like we're valuable, you know, whatever reasons. I mean, you can come up with a bazillion and one reasons why we're experiencing anxiety. But honoring ourselves, staying in the moment, stop the time travel. I call it time travel. It's, oh, I remember when, and what if? Like you said, bring yourself to the moment. Okay, so let me ask you, do you still experience any anxiety at all?
It depends.
Okay.
I do more with weather.
Okay.
I think all pilots who are experienced, no matter what they're flying, well, except for, you know, the cowboys.
Yeah.
They don't care. You can be like this, and it's fine. But even like even from what I've seen, I think sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for where we are, because we think, oh, you know, I don't look as comfortable as he is, you know, that pilot, oh my God, how can he do that? You know, but actually, you know, they also have that, you know, little bit of concern sometimes, and it's because not everything is perfect, and weather is always a factor. It is a reality, and everybody handles that differently. You know, just because you're good at something doesn't mean that you're not, you know, anxious about something. You know.
Good. And see, there's another. We don't ever expect it to completely go away. And like Zoraya said, is be in the moment, be present with yourself, and trust yourself. One of the things I've always said is, I trust myself to say and do the right thing at the right time. And it's amazing what happens. With that, I thank you very much for watching Positive Momentum TV. Come back next time, and hopefully we'll have Zoraya back. Thank you very much. Have a great day. This program is brought to you by Movement Solutions and Soaring Wings Vineyard and Brewing.